Holly, thank you. There was also plenty of drama on Saturday night in Liberal headquarters. They've made unfortunate history, the first opposition to lose a seat to the government in a by-election for more than 100 years. So where to now for the party in particular in Victoria? Joining me live now, Liberal MP for Menzies in Melbourne, the neighbouring electorate to Aston, Keith Wellaghan. Thanks very much for your time. The concern for the Liberal Party would be, well, many different things, but in particular a swing on a swing. 7% in 2022, a lot put down to Scott Morrison's unpopularity. This is another 6%. Is Peter Dutton, for now, not very popular in Victoria?
There's no sugarcoating what happened on Saturday night. That wasn't a swing I or anyone was expecting. For friends of mine in the Labor Party weren't expecting that. I think the Liberal Party has lost the trust of the people we need to in Melbourne. We need to re-establish our relationship with Melbourne. When you look at the map, there's now 2 federal seats. I'm one of them. I'm as close as we get to the city, and it's still a fair distance. It will be Australia's largest city within a decade. So there's no pathway to government unless we fix the relationship between the Liberal Party and Melbourne, and we've got to start that task now.
Do you think it's possible under Peter Dutton? Do you think as well, for now, you'd have to draw the conclusion he's not popular, given how much Labor made him a part of the campaign?
Despite the commentary, this wasn't a referendum on Peter Dutton. This was... there was many different lessons from it, but I think Peter Dutton does have the capacity to connect with Melbourne. The Peter Dutton I know is a good person, a good leader. I know that when people of Melbourne get to know him as I do, we will have successes in Melbourne. I'm confident of that.
So he has the capacity to, but he hasn't connected with them yet, it's fair to say.
Well, because he's a new leader, and a new leader takes time, and all of the oxygen has been devoted to the government, and they're only 10 months in, so I think we can do it.
It seems an inherent problem that a lot of people in the Liberal Party say, Peter Dutton, the one I know, great bloke, self-deprecating, but voters don't know that. Could that be a bridge that's kind of impossible to cross?
Well, we've been here before. The Labor Party are very good at painting Liberal leaders as cartoon characters. They did it with Howard, they've done it with Scott Morrison, and they're trying to do it now with Peter. Our task is to push back on that and not let them define who our leader is, not let them define who our party is, but our task, including mine, is to stand up for our values and say, no, this is who I am, this is who we are. I think the public want us to be more forthright. They want us to fight for things, and they want us to fight for them. I think if we do that, then I think we'll have success.
But is he and the party as well, you're defining yourselves as well, you talk about fighting, on all the big policy decisions so far in Parliament, you haven't engaged or suggested amendments, you've just said no. On the housing fund, on reconstruction fund, on the safeguard mechanism, which business said, please engage, you didn't. Should you rethink strategy around that as well, so you're not able to be painted as the so-called no-alition?
And again, that is a perception, and it has that cute line of the no-alition, but it's not true. Most of what we do in Parliament is bipartisan, and I was the lead on the Corruption Commission inquiry. That was a key issue in the election, and certainly in Melbourne. And we as a party acted constructively on that Joint Select Committee, and then we proposed amendments to that bill and then fully supported it. And that's an example of where we can do that work. If Labor put forward a bad bill, of course we're not going to support it just for, we think it might...
It's not about supporting it though, but even putting up alternatives. The safeguard mechanism, if you thought it was going too aggressively, you could, propose a lower rate of increase, whatever it might be. It was just no from the outset. And the business community, meant to be your constituency, said you should engage, otherwise Labor does a deal with the Greens, and they did. Do you need to rethink that sort of strategy when it is a policy, it's either you or the Greens will be dealing with Labor?
I think we need to work out where we are in the electoral time frame. So we are months out from the last election. We will have a policy development process and put those to the election. But a by-election sort of comes in before you've done that work. But we're not going to go to the next election without offering solutions to the Australian people. But we'll do it in a methodical way, and that means doing the work rather than just reacting to what Labor does.
But as opposition, for now, you do just have to react to what Labor does. That's your role in the Parliament. Do you need to rethink the strategy on that and perhaps be a little bit less no up front and be willing to try to negotiate and then be able to have said, here's the amendments we put up, they didn't get up, but we tried?
Tom, after a result on Saturday, you have to rethink everything. I mean, that's the truth. But we also have to hold the Labor Party to account. That's our job as the opposition, and that makes for better government. And I think we have to work out if we're getting that balance right. And of course, everything should be on the table after Saturday.
What about The Voice? Where we've got a report from our political editor, there could be a Wednesday party room to decide the Liberal Party view on that. Is that accurate?
I'll only react to any formal notice that I get to come back. At this stage, I've got local commitments lined up in Menzies, and I'll still be.
So you don't have a notice to come back yet?
No. But if that changes, of course, we will come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your view on what the Liberal Party could do? Because, I mean, it's not necessarily a conscience vote in terms of you're not voting on legislation here, but you're deciding the parties, whether you'll sort of be a block, yes or no on it. Would that be, would this be the sort of thing, I mean, it's up to the people and it's a referendum. Should each member be able to campaign how they like on this?
Well, we need to recognise that this isn't on the vibe of it. This is our founding birth certificate, and what we do in it has consequences. There's three limbs to the voice. There's recognition, there's the voice to the parliament, and there's the voice to the executive. If and when we as a party discuss those three things, I think we can form a view on each of those limbs: recognition, parliament and executive. We don't have to bundle it all together and say it's an all or nothing proposition.
But would it necessarily be a party-wide view on each of those things that you're all locked in behind, given there are some very strong views within the party for and against? Would it be reasonable to let people, Liberal MPs, the party of free choice, campaign on this how they'd like to?
Well, the first thing to do is to have our say as a party room, and I respect that process, so I'm not going to preempt that here in any way. But I take the point, you know, that has been something that happened in previous referendums. But it depends where we land on those three limbs. I have personal reservations, serious reservations, with the consequences of the voice to the executive. I have some reservations on the voice to the parliament, and I have almost no reservations on a preamble. And I'm sure every member will have different views on those three limbs. There's also a joint select committee which has its first meeting today, and I'm a member of that. That's entitled to do its work and probe that model that's been put forward.
And so on those three limbs, I mean, if there's broad agreement on one, fine, you have a party-wide review. If there's strong argument in one, would it be a logical thing to let people campaign how they would, rather than try to lock in people who feel it really strongly against their wishes?
It depends where we land. So if on that current model for the voice to the executive, that is an extreme proposal. It's not modest, and there are serious concerns. And we've seen someone, including Professor Craven, who has written about that, someone who is in favour of the voice, but says that this particular proposal is far too extreme and will have consequences for how we're governed in this nation. We, as a serious party, have a responsibility to question that.
There are differing views within constitutional experts, just noting that. Yes, there are some concern. Keith Wallahan, appreciate your time today. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.